Hello guys, this is another dev diary. This is part 5 of the dev diary 7. Last time I showed you the French Imperial Army tier 5, the French army of the Franco-Prussian War, you could say. And now we are going to the last tier. I mean, it is the same tier, so tier 5, but the French Republican Army of the Third Republic. Last time, as you have noticed in most of the videos, I cut the video very short in some occasions. Well, the reason why sometimes, I could have a crash, it's also possible, but also sometimes because no more information is needed, and sometimes I get like a phone call, and yeah, it goes in between the video that I record. So yeah, I'm not really a YouTuber whatsoever. It's just pure to show information to all the people. So I'm going to showcase the last tier. So here you can see it's the French Third Republic, and if you see the faction traits or info, it is the last tier of this mod, you could say, at least for the Carlist Wars. We are still going to add different newer tiers, tier 6, 7 and 8. So that means troops from tier 6 will be from 1880 to 1890, tier 7 will be from 1890 to 1900, and you could say that tier 8 is like 1900 plus. Just say pre-World War I period. At least that's the purpose of this game, but not yet. On the Carlist Wars, we will only release the first 5 tiers, because the Carlist Wars, the third one, ended in 1877, I think it was, or 1876. So this is where we're going to end. Yeah, so I'm just going to show you this one. Tier 6, 7 and 8 will be optional when or they will be added in a later patch. So the first public release will be without tier 6, 7 and 8. They will just be tier 1 to 5 to reflect the Carlist Wars, and then after, in a patch or an update, let's say, we add tier 6, 7 and 8, because I am also redoing the campaign map. I'm creating or I'm testing out like how big I can go with the campaign map, so I'm doing this for the moment also. So yeah, it will take a bit of a time just to test out some stuff. More about the campaign map will come later on. So this will be the last video for this dev diary 7. So next dev diary will be dev diary 8. So now I will take just to defend here, because I think last time I took attacking always. So let's now just let's now defend. Let's take the Riverlands. I think we have taken the cornfields, farmlands, lakes, oasis, or in village. Not yet. It's more of a, I mean, it's a field battle also, but it's more of a siege mixed field battle, you could say. Plus you can also have it in the siege one, but the siege one for the moment is only 1v1. The field battles are always until its max size, so 4v4. Remember that the Carlist Wars are single player only, so if you are doing a 4v4, you're playing against other battle AIs, you could say. I will talk about the MP mode that I have in my mind. I mean, I've planned for the future. I will talk about it in a later time, maybe after this video, or after showcasing the tier 5 Third Republic troops, or it will be another video. It really depends. So and also, just to remember, I always use summer to showcase units. You have already noticed of the other 4 previous videos that you have summer dress and winter dress. The total of the samurai maps, or the FotS maps, they all reflect the climate maps that are in game. So if you play or you choose a different season, spring, summer, you need summer dress. Autumn, winter, you need winter dress. Pretty simple. And that's for all climate maps. So if you play, for example, in a desert-like area in winter, you will still have to use winter uniforms, or you could even use summer dress uniform. The penalties that summer dress uniform have in desert-like areas is not as high as in, for example, temperate maps. Temperate maps are like, just say, Central to North European maps, so that's temperate. You also have, to explain seasonal maps in geography, I think you have, so you have subtropical maps, you have temperate maps, temperate areas. Subtropical is, you could say, like Mediterranean. It's like not tropical, but it's pretty a warm area, you could say, like Mediterranean, for example. Then you have the tropical. The word said itself, it's a tropical area and very humid and hot. And then you have like desert, dry maps. You also have, after temperate, you also have Arctic maps. So that's more Nordic areas, or areas that are closer to one of the poles. Doesn't matter, it's South or North Pole. Those are Arctic maps. I'm sure you have more. I'm not really that good in geography, but it's made. I just took the example from Empire Total War. So. Okay, last time I took the liberals. You have seen that in part 4, so now we will take the Miguelist. The Tier 5 Third Republican troops, they have different cavalry, so we will take the cavalry, so I will show it to you. But the units are completely the same in uniform, because between the Second Empire's fall and the rising of the Third Republic, the uniforms didn't change that much. They will change in Tier 6, for example, the Third Republic, but mostly the uniforms didn't change that much. There were some details. Some cases the units didn't have epaulettes at their shoulder, but that was with the rising of the Third Republic. They were still using epaulettes at most cases, so it will only reflect at Tier 6. But as you can see, the cavalry has changed. You do not have Carabinieri anymore. They were disbanded after the fall of the Second Empire. The same for the Sans-Garde. Sans-Garde and the Carabinieri, they were all fused into the Cuirassiers. So the Cuirassiers, in this case, they will be mostly the same model until early World War I. They still had the same uniform. The rest, Hussar, Chasseur d'Afrique, and Lancer, have been changed to with the art that we found in the game, on the internet. And you also will see now that the Third Republic had more advanced weaponry. Yeah, I'm sorry for the history lesson. I just talk a lot, I know, and you are like maybe saying like, I wanna just show me the bloody guns and units and that's it. I don't need a history lesson, but just to give you a bit of a background, if you don't know that much, you can always look it up on Google. But the Third Republic had more advanced weaponry because after the Franco-Prussian War of 1870-71, they have learned a lot. They have learned hard lessons. For example, changing the guns to more Prussian type, you could say, so breech loaders, iron cast or steel cast guns. So here it's also reflected. So after the Franco-Prussian War, they invested all in breech loaded guns. Now the first type of breech loaded guns, they were not that good. They were based on the Armstrong model. So the Armstrong gun that is famous or was famous in Britain in the 1860s. Now Britain found out, at least in their opinion, or the ordnance, the Royal Ordnance Board actually found out that the Armstrong guns, especially the higher caliber ones, they were not very reliable. Now other people or other historians said no, it's not really correct. The reason why the British didn't want it, the Armstrong guns anymore, or the breech load ones that they had in the 1860s, is because it was too expensive for the British Army. So that's why they reverted back in the 1870s back to muzzle-loaded guns. So just to give you that info. So a lot of the early guns, like the Refi guns, they were all based on the same system of the Armstrong gun. Now the Armstrong gun had the 6-pounder and the 9-pounder, and the mountain guns, they were pretty well. They were pretty good. So it means that they were still in use at some colonial wars. For example, the Anglo-Zulu War, it was used. I'm not sure at the Anglo-Sudanese War against the Mahdists. But I think yes, but I'm not really sure. But I think at the Anglo-Zulu War they used Armstrong mountain guns. So that's why for the British, while I know that they reverted back in the 1870s to muzzle-loaded rifled guns, I will still let the Armstrong guns be in the game for gameplay reasons. Otherwise the British will just get outgunned entirely. But that's for the future, not for now. So let's take, to show you all the siege guns, we have the 100-pounder rifled Dabang gun. It's a 155mm gun. It shoots a 100-pounder shell. And this is a 48 one, 48-pounder rifled Dabang one, and it's a 120mm gun, and that's why you have it 120. You have to always change the information, the tooltip, and it shoots a 48 shell. Then you have the machine guns. I will show you later. I will just concentrate on because oh my god, how can I say it? The machine guns, like the Gardner gun, as you can see, is tier 6. Same for the Maxim guns, are tier 7, and then you have the MG ones, tier 8. Except the Gatling gun is tier 5, so that belongs to the French Third Republican Army. Now you could say why Gatling guns? Did the French use Gatling guns after the disaster with the mitrailleurs? They actually did in the Franco-Prussian War in 1871, when they disbanded the Second Empire, where they actually kept on fighting. They had some Gatling guns available and they were used. I don't remember which battle it was, but Gatling guns have been used, so that's why I keep them for the tier 5 Third Republican Army. So I'm just going to take all the guns, so then you know, okay, except the horse guns. I mean, you know, they're horse-drawn guns. So we take all the summer dress one, and then I will just explain a bit. 12-pounder. Jeff also used it in one of his videos, so if you want more about it, you can always go to his video. So I think I have it all. Let's just take the infantry, and as you can see, a lot of units have disappeared. The guard units, the Imperial Army has been disbanded and all became Republican Army. So the army you see here will be you could say the standard army that the French will have during the later Victorian age, La Belle Époque, until World War I. So we have the legionnaires, skirmishers of course, the Algerian tirailleurs, the engineers, we have the zouaves, and just the normal infantry. And you also can see that they use LA breach, so that means late era breach. I just created like eras, so you have early era breach, you have middle era breach, you have late era breach, then at tier 6 you have early modern era breach, the label actually in this case. Then you have the middle modern era breach, and then you have the late modern era breach. That's how I'm going to name them. It's not maybe the way history or they standardizes it that way, but I just do it for gameplay reasons again. Here you can also notice that the Megalist also have their own troops. I mean generals. I mean. The cavalry is just regular cavalry. I didn't find much more information. Maybe they had more type of cavalry, but I just used the regular cavalry, and this one they use carbines, so they are missile cavalry. Okay, so here you have the Fusiliers and the Grenadiers. And the Megalist troops, and maybe we'll notice it a bit later if we are on the battlefield, they are very post-Napoleonic style. It's only until the liberals actually came that they reformed the army in a more British type look, like a belt top, the belt top shako. Yeah, it was a belt top shako, so the Portuguese and British were very aligned with each other for a pretty long time, so they used a lot of the models from the British. Let's start the battle. So here you can see again another type of battlefield. It's like a lowland-ish type of map with some little hills there, here and there you can see. So it's like a lowland, you know, as map it say. It's a riverlands type, swamp type, um, yeah, map. Yeah, sometimes I always have to think in English. You know, I always think in Dutch and in Flemish, and I have to try to translate it in my head to English. So, but let us just first showcase the troops. It's a bit annoying, of course, with these forests, but okay, let's no problem about it. So let's take a look to the troops. Here we have the legionnaires, and as you can see, the uniforms, they're the same actually as previous tier 5 one, but the imperial troops, except that the flag is a bit different. Here you can see République Française, so it's a bit different. And also what I forgot about is that they're using a new rifle. It's the Gras Fusil, or the Gras musket or rifle. The Gras was an improvement above the Chassepot. So there were some problems, I think, with the lock or something. There are some videos that you can find on YouTube. It really explains the difference between the Chassepot and the Gras Fusil. The Gras Fusil was also the first French gun that introduced metallic cartridges, but still we're still using black powder. It was only after the invention of the Lebel rifle where they used smokeless powder for the first time, at least in the French army. So here we have the Gras Fusil. So remember that every era rifle, the later you go, of course, the better the rifles are and the more accurate and the more damaging they are. So Gras Fusil is better than the Chassepot in this case, at least in the game here. So the range, I also want to talk about it. I have to go back because I didn't really talk about. Let me first talk about the units. So here we have the skirmishers. You have seen that in previous video in part 4. This is the Algerian tirailleur, tier 5, Third Republic, tier 5. The engineers, and as you can see, they do not have bayonets because they use the actually added because the axe when they're going in melee. Here we have the Zouaves, same uniform, didn't change, and the normal infantry. Here is the normal infantry. Late era bridge. So I was talking about not stalking, but talking. I was talking about the range. Now if you go on this unit, the ranges is 200. Now for every unit, doesn't matter which version of musket or rifle they are using, they're all 200 in range. Now you could say, yeah, but what's the point of using more modern guns? Well, it's those stats you see here, those are what we called local stats, so that's per unit. But there are a lot of global stats that you actually can see, and those are, for example, if we have some modders or people that have a bit of knowledge of modding. If you go into the database, you have, for example, that every musket in this type has an individual projectile. So those are global stats that depends on the projectile a musket or rifle is using. So you don't see them here. Those are just local stats from the unit itself, not from the projectile it shoots or the gun it shoots, you could say. So 200, the reason why, if you were making it realistically, you could say, as I said, it's not always possible, for gameplay reasons. Really has to do that when you are 200, it is easier for the battle AI to handle, because we have been testing it for quite some time, and we have noticed that the AI really behaves so strange with different ranges. So it becomes really strange how the AI reacts, and just to make it as stable as possible or balanced as possible, we just choose, at least in my opinion, not all people have to agree, you have the same 200 range, but dependable of what gun or musket you're using, the more modern you are, the more damaging the individual projectile is, the reload speed and what's or not. So I'm just saying that those stats you see here on the right, those are local stats from the unit itself. And you will also have maybe noticed that most of the individual stats of all soldiers, doesn't matter which tier it has, they have similar stats, at least in morale, melee, and range. And as you can see here, not reload skill, because you know the reload skill also depends a bit of which gun you're using, but accuracy and ammunition, they're mostly all the same from tier 1 to tier 5. That's like the standard we are going for. It also makes it for the battle AI easier to handle, because you get sometimes lags in game, and those lags are not graphical. After testing a lot, it is because the CPU, so your CPU here, is calculating like everything. You know, it doesn't only calculate the entire environment and the pathfinding, right? Also the you could say the grounds where they are walking, the terrain they are moving forward, but they also, I mean, the CPU also calculates every individual entity you have here on your army. So if you have like different stats over the entire army, I've noticed that the game crashes faster and you get a lot of lag, because there are so many different stats. The CPU is calculating all different stats, but when you all have around equal stats, it's much easier for the battle AI to handle. But there are still much more differences in, as I said, in global stats. So for example, you know, those breach load ones are much faster, much more destructive. Also, when they shoot at their maximum range, as you can see here, it's almost the same as they shoot from here, you could say. So the damage doesn't go almost lesser, while in like for example at tier 1 units, if you shoot even an enemy unit here and you shoot from, you know, your line, and the projectile hits a unit here, the damage will be much more lower. So they will not hit that much of the units, if you could say. I hope I'm trying to make sense here. But while with a modern rifle, the amount of damage you shoot from 50 meters to 200 meters, let's say, is almost equal. There is no diminishing in hitting your target because of misfire. The misfire is almost zero, you could say. While with like flintlocks and whatsoever, it will be much more higher, so you have to get closer to really hit your target. That's also for gameplay reasons. Is it more historically accurate? Partially, but I'm sure a lot of pros and cons, I mean, people that are against it and people that are for it have different opinions. Fine, make the comments, no problem. We listen to all feedback, but this is for us, at least for gameplay reasons, the best. Okay, let's just go to the guns. So here we have a 12-pounder rifled Refi 85mm field cannon. It's a gun, so it's a rifled one, and as you can see, it's a bronze barreled one. The first Refi guns, they were based, as I said in previous video, on the Armstrong guns, so they were like based on that model. They were also bronze, as the Armstrong gun, at least the first models, were bronze based. So yeah, all the Refi guns are all bronze based guns. So you have here you have a 12-pounder gun, so that's already a pretty heavy one. So, and they're breech loaded, so that makes it pretty cool. I'm not sure if I changed the wagon. Could be. Sometimes I change so many stuff that I don't not remember what I changed actually. Let's continue. Here we have the 18-pounder rifle Lahitol 90mm gun. 18-pounder, as we all know, it's the shell. It's not the weight of the gun or the barrel. It can shoot an 18-pounder shell. Remember, they're all explosive shells. So yeah, so this is a Lahitol 90mm gun. Lahitols were the ones that actually replaced the Refi guns in the 1870s, well, the middle of the 1870s. You could say the Refi guns were the first breech-loaded guns for the French army until the Lahitol ones replaced them. Here we have the 100 pounder rifle, the Bang 155mm guns. It's a pretty big boy. So that's as you can see, also in steel. It's a pretty big siege gun, and the Bang guns were actually the main guns for the French until the model 75 one. That was like the first gun, or the hydraulic, it was the first gun that had a hydraulic recoil, while most French guns were still, the recoil was still going back and forward. So yeah, it was a breech loaded gun, the Bang guns. But the 75, model 75, I don't remember. There were many guns, I just do not remember all of it, but what I've read about the 75 was the first really modern gun where you had a hydraulic recoil, but they didn't make that much, so they still had to use them, the obsolete the Bang guns at the battlefield of World War One. So because they just didn't have enough of those guns of the model 75 yet. So here a lot of those guns were used in World War One even, especially the Bang guns. So pretty heavy gun. So here we have the Lahitol 95mm gun. So that's a tier 6, that's correct. So this one will not appear in the tier 5 army, and the reason why, because it's a tier 6. Actually, the 95mm Lahitol gun, when it was, if you could say, available, it was already obsolete. And that was, I think in like the beginning of the 1880s. So in theory, this gun is obsolete already in the time it was released for the French army, because it was the Bang guns actually replaced the Lahitol. But as it was made and released, even if it was already obsolete, I just added in game, but they will be just starting from tier 6, the 24 pounder shell they shoot. And here we have the 90mm Bang guns. So those are the best of the best guns for the French army until the 1890s with the model 75, of course. So yeah, it's a pretty big gun. So those are the best guns for, you could say, the entirety of the Victorian age, the Bang models. This is an 18 pounder shell, 90mm gun. Here we have the Bang 80mm guns, and shoots a 9 pounder shell. So it's a very modern gun, breech loaded, same. Let's see the other guns here. Here we have the 48 pounder, the Bang. So shoots a 48 pounder gun here, shell, sorry. And it's a 120mm gun. And as you can see, it's a siege gun. Here we have the Refi 6 pounder gun. So those were the first breech load guns for the French army. Just after the Franco-Prussian War, they started developing this system. I think they've learned pretty good lessons with the Franco-Prussian War, where the Prussians had like breech load guns, and they were pretty accurate and good also. Any other guns? Nope. Let's see the cavalry. So here we have the Chasseurs d'Afrique. You can see that the uniform are as good as equal, just some little different details. And they also have now a forage cap, so they are not using those shackles anymore. This is the Lancer. As you can see, they are different. These are the French Republican Lancers. Even used at the prelude of World War One, where they still used. We all know that World War One actually replaced most of the cavalry, at least at the end of it. Cavalry was replaced by tanks. Not all nations, there were still nations using horses, so, but let's say it's modern warfare changed like everything. There was a guy actually asking me, yeah, but what about the the bridles or something was for horses, and here you can see they are here. They're textured, as you can see here. We don't. The only thing is the units do not have a lash or like a cord to hold the bridle. That is pure vanilla. I mean, even in Vanilla Shogun 2 they don't have it. So I just wanted to let you know about it. In Vanilla they don't have it. I know in Three Kingdoms they have like the lash, I mean the cord, but even then, I mean, the cavalry doesn't use it in the game, at least what I've noticed. So yeah, I just leave it like this. I don't think it's really necessary. But you can see clearly the bridles here. As you can see here, they're all drawn there, as you can see. Let's go to the other cavalry here. That's the Hussars. So they have completely changed based on art. So these are the Republican Hussars, Third Republic, also with forged caps, as you can see. And then we have the Cuirassiers. Didn't change that much, you could say. These are the Republican Cuirassiers. As you can see, flags have been changed to the Republican flag, Cuirassier, and they were still there until World War One. Did a really famous picture. I think there is even a meme about it. So yeah. Okay, let us let the enemy come to us, and I will then show you the way the guns work. Let's see, I think the 48 will shoot. That's the bang cannon. So you can see they use shells and they reload here via the breech. So, and they will close it, loop, and shoot. They're pretty fast, as you can see. So this is the 18-pounder rifled one that is shooting. This is the 9, but it doesn't shoot yet, so probably because it's not yet in, I call it, in range. So here with the Lytle 95mm gun, close it up, the handle, and boom. And here you can see the shell, so it all corresponds. The shell, it is a 24-pounder. I mean, at least in game, so they have their own shells. And here we're going to have the bigger guns. They also make bigger noise, and they have, as you can see here, have more kind of a white smoke. They will have a black smoke more. You can see the noise is different, and you see the black smoke. So that's not this one. Oh, okay, I didn't saw this shell, but okay, it's a bigger shell. There's the 18-pounder Lytle 90mm gun. So they are pretty fast. And here's the 18-pounder shell. And let's see here. This is the Refi 12-pounder shell. So let's see how they shoot. That's the 12-pounder shell. You have noticed that the recoil, I mean, the way that they actually tried to resolve the issue, at least in the early modern age, for at least, I mean, for the French army, I mean, in most nations, the way they actually hold up the recoil is by adding the behind size, you could say, or the behind piece, to put it more in the ground, so you didn't have so much of a recoil. That's the way they resolved it in some occasions, not always. So, but as you can see, it's the Armstrong engine I'm using as a gun, but with different models. And they're not firing. Okay. Oh, the horse is already there. Let's see, are they going to fire? Those are the horses. They're pretty fast. Horses are already fleeing. Let's Here are my units. And they're firing with the breech loaders. We get shot to pieces, as you can see. They're black. And they fled because they're idiots. Can I say, you know, AI isn't really the smartest in attacking. Defending, they're pretty okay. The map is not really easy either because they have to cross a lot of like swamps and rivers and whatnot, so it takes a bit longer to appeal. But you know, it's just to showcase a bit how it is. I didn't show you the Portuguese one, right? Okay, so here we have the Fusiliers. As you can see, they are very reminiscent of the post-Napoleonic troops. This is the Caçadores. They're a bit the same as the how you call it, the liberal ones. And here we have the Grenadiers, also very reminiscent to the post-Napoleonic, I mean, Napoleonic troops. So, I mean, remember, with breech-loaded guns, they are very powerful, but you know, as they shoot pretty fast, it means the ammunition is very fast finished also, because all guns have a 30 ammunition, so that means muzzle loaded and breech loaded. So you can say that muzzle loaded have one good thing is they reload pretty slow, so it takes longer for the ammunition even if it's the same amount, but breech loader just shoot much faster, so destructively it can be better, or you just sometimes stop the bombardment to move your infantry forwards, as actually they did at, you know, this was a tactic that they were using, shelling the enemy and then move the infantry forward. Captain World War I, they made a lot of I mean, everyone knew what was going to happen. When you start shelling an area, they knew, okay, this is where the infantry goes, so we just entrench ourselves inside of, I don't know, somewhere, and then we just wait until they come and we shoot them. So in time they actually created like a system where they were shelling during the infantry was going forward, so they always had to go and shoot a bit further and further and further, but we all know it really, you know, really got screwed up sometimes. Yeah, it got screwed up sometimes because, yeah, they were shelling their own troops. But okay, and here you can see again that the, you know, the trees are getting on fire, as you can see.